over to you, PP. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, actually, everyone. Program Director, Mr. Sekhalwe, Deputy Public Protector Advocate Kolaka Tsaleka, Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Sibanyoni, Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Muhalaba, the Executive Managers of Public Protector South Africa, members of the media, members of the public, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I wish to thank the media and express this office's appreciation for your unfailing interest in the work of this independent constitutional institution. Our interest is to reach the public, whom we are enjoined by Section 182(4) of the Constitution to be accessible to. It will be nearly impossible to reach them without your help. Today marks our first quarterly briefing for the 2021-2022 financial year. We are releasing a number of investigation reports covering a variety of themes. These include housing, healthcare, home affairs issues, recruitment and selection of staff, whistleblower protection, procurement and contract management, management of municipal finances, cadre deployment, and the appointment of advisors for ministers. The public which, in fact, we release this in findings to the public, which is our constitutional and legislative imperative under Section 182(5) of the Constitution, read with Section 8, subsection 1, and Section 8, subsection 2A, capital A and A of the Public Protector Act 1994. All in all, there are 16 reports which we will be issuing. 5 are closing reports. There are reports stemming from investigations that we have had to close owing to reasons such as being unsubstantiated allegations, referral to other competent forums, or a lack of jurisdiction. The rest of the reports are those in which we have made adverse findings and taken appropriate remedial action. Between the Deputy Public Protector, the Chief Chief Executive Officer, and the Chief Operations Officer and I, we will take turns speaking to different aspects of this statement. I now had to hand you over to the COO, which is the Chief Operations Officer, who will take you through the closing reports and those reports concerning recruitment and selection of staff. He will be followed by the CEO, who will deal with housing, home affairs, and whistleblower protection cases. And the Deputy Public Protector will deal with public procurement and health matters. And then I will deal with the rest of the other reports. Over to you, COO.
Thank you very much, Public Protector, and good afternoon to everyone. I will deal with some of the reports as PP has indicated. I'll start with the closing reports. The first report is in relation to Malakwane versus Lejoleputswa District Municipality, which is report number 1 of 2021-22. The Public Protector investigated allegations of maladministration by the Lejoleputswa District Municipality in relation to the procurement of PPE, which is personal protective equipment. The complaint was lodged by Councillor P. Malakwane on the 12th of October 2020. He alleged that the municipality did not follow correct procurement procedures in the procurement of PPE as part of the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The investigation was closed on the grounds that the allegations were unsubstantiated. What this therefore means is that the allegations that were laid against the Lejoleputswa District Municipality in relation to the maladministration of procurement irregularities, there was no evidence which was found to support the allegations. Which therefore means that the municipality did follow the correct procurement processes. The second report in relation to the Free State Department of Treasury, report number 2 of 2021-22, is a Radl versus the Free State Department of Treasury. The public protector investigated allegations of maladministration where the Free State Treasury cancelled a PPE bid after acceptance letters were issued to successful bidders. The matter was closed on the basis that the allegations leveled against the department by Mr. G. Radl, including that the cancellation of the bid was contrary to legislative prescriptions, and that despite this, orders were issued to certain companies could not be substantiated. Again, the investigation has revealed that the cancellation of the bid was in line with the necessary prescripts governing procurement in the country. The third report, which was closed, is anonymous concerned staff, members of staff versus the National Department of Transport, report number 5 of 21-22. This investigation deals with aspects of the investigation arising out of a complaint by anonymous concerned members of staff. The public protector investigated the allegations of maladministration in connection with the awarding of a contract to C-Squared Consumer Connectedness, Pty Ltd, and the service providers for the supply of PPE by the National Department of Transport, as well as a conflict of interest arising from the contract. This is, however, part A of part 2 of the report. Part B, which will be dealt with later, concerns another investigation in respect of the appointment of advisors by the Minister of Transport. In this regard, a formal report is issued. The investigation was closed as there was no evidence to corroborate the allegations that were the awarding of the contract to C-Squared Consumer Connectedness Pty Ltd and any other service providers for the supply of PPE by the National Department of Transport, as well as conflict of interest arising from the contract, were contrary to any legislation mentioned in the report. What therefore says is that our findings in terms of the investigation revealed that the award of the contract to C-Squared was in line with the procurement processes as envisaged by the Public Finance Management Act. The fourth report, report number 12 of 2020-21, Ngwenya versus CRL Commission. The public protector investigated allegations of maladministration, improper conduct, and irregular appointment of Professor David Luka Musoma, Professor Musoma, for the position of chairperson of the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural and Religious and Linguistic Communities, CRL Commission. The complaint, Mr. Mtimadi Ngwenya, alleged that Professor Musoma was an African National Congress office bearer at the time of his appointment, both as deputy chair in March 2014 and later to his current position in June 2019. Professor Musoma was not a party office bearer, and these are the findings of the investigation, and accordingly, the investigation was closed. Our investigation further revealed that the allegations were also not substantiated, as Professor Musoma was found not to have been an office bearer, as alleged by the complainant. We now turn to deal with investigations that resulted in correspondence and where the public protector has taken appropriate remedial action as contemplated in section 182(1) of the Constitution. And these matters relates to issues around recruitment and selection of staff and related matters. The first report, which It is report number 34, 2021-22. It's anonymous versus Ephraim Mohale local municipality. The public protector investigated allegations of maladministration by the Ephraim Mohale local municipality in Limpopo province relating to the appointment of Ms. M.L. Masumbuka to the position of Chief Internal Auditor. An anonymous complaint lodged on 10 July 2019 by employees of the municipality gave rise to this investigation. In the main, the complainant alleged that the former acting municipal manager, Mr. Makoko Lekola, decided to appoint Ms. Masumbuka, even though the selection and interview panel had not recommended her for appointment. According to the complainants, 2 candidates other than Ms. Masumbuka were recommended for appointment in order of performance during the interview process. Ms. Masumbuka was the 3rd candidate in order of performance. The investigation focused on whether the municipality irregularly appointed Ms. Masumbuka to the position of Chief Internal Auditor, and whether the recommended candidates or any other person suffered any prejudice as a result of the irregular appointment of Ms. Masumbuka. During the investigation revealed that both allegations are substantiated. Ms. Masumbuka was shortlisted, interviewed, and appointed by the municipality despite not being in possession of the relevant bachelor's degree in internal audit, accounting, or equivalent, as required by the advertisement at the time she applied for the position of Chief Internal Auditor. The highest qualification that Mrs. Masumbuka had at the time she applied for the post was a national diploma in internal auditing, is not equivalent to a bachelor's degree in internal audit or accounting. The shortlisting, interview, and subsequent appointment of Ms. Masumbuka prejudiced other applicants who applied on the strength of their qualification as stated in the advertisement. The decision to appoint the 3rd but not recommended candidate prejudiced the 1st and the 2nd recommended candidates, respectively. In this regard, the conduct of the municipality accordingly constituted proper conduct that resulted in prejudice as envisaged in the Constitution and the applicable section of the Public Protector Act. To remedy this improper conduct and maladministration, the Speaker of the Municipal Council, in consultation with the Municipal Council, must, within 30 working days from the date of this report, take disciplinary action against Mr. Makoko Lekola and current employees who participated in the irregular appointment of Ms. Masumbuka. The Speaker of the municipality was also, in consultation with the acting municipal manager, within 30 working days of the date of this report, develop internal controls to safeguard the integrity of the recruitment and selection process in all phases of the recruitment process to avoid a recurrence of similar incident in the future. The acting municipal manager must institute proceedings for the judicial review of the appointment of Ms. Masumbuka as the Chief Internal Auditor of the municipality within 60 business days from the date of this report. Further, the acting municipal manager must also submit a report on the progress made with instituting the judicial review proceedings to the Municipal Council within 19 working days from the date of this report. The acting municipal manager must further, within 30 working days from the date of this report, conduct training and capacitate officials on the recruitment and selection policy process to avoid the recurrence. The next report deals with Anonymous versus the Northern Cape Gambling Board. It's report number 9, 2021-22 in the Northern Cape. the public protector investigated allegations of improper conduct and maladministration in relation to the secondment and subsequent appointment of Mr. Vincent Motibi as the CEO of the Northern Cape Gambling Board by Mr. Maruping Lekwele, the former MEC of Finance, Economic Development and Tourism in that province. The investigation followed an anonymous complaint lodged on the 3rd of August 2020, wherein it was alleged that the former MEC's secondment of Mr. Motibi as acting Gambling Board CEO for a period of 3 years instead of the prescribed 12 months was not in accordance with the laws and prescripts regulating the secondment of employees in the public service. It transpired during the investigation that the former MEC further appointed Mr. Motibi for a period of 12 months as Gambling Board CEO, with effect from the 1st of January 2020 to the 31st of December 2021. In addition, the current MEC of the same portfolio, Mr. A. Foslo, allegedly extended Mr. Motibi's contract to the 31st of March 2021, or until the post is permanently filled, whichever comes first. We focused the investigation on whether Mr. Lekwele's alleged secondment of Mr. Motibi as the Gambling Board CEO was not in accordance with the relevant laws and prescripts regulating the secondment of employees in the public service. We also looked into whether Mr. Lekwele's appointment of Mr. Motibi as the Gambling Board CEO 1st of January 2020 to the 31st of December 2020 was not in accordance with the relevant laws, prescripts regulating the appointment of the CEO of the Gambling Board. The investigation revealed that the allegation that Mr. Lekwele's secondment of Mr. Motibi as the Chief Executive for the period of 3 years with effect from the 2nd of September 2019 was not in accordance with the relevant laws, prescripts regulating the secondment of employees in the public service. Moreover, the allegation that the former MEC's appointment of Mr. Motibi as the Gambling Board CEO for a period of 12 months, retrospective from the 1st of January 2020 until 31st of December 2020, was not in accordance with the relevant laws and prescripts regulating the appointment of a CEO of the Gambling Board. To remedy this improper conduct, as per the investigation that was conducted, and maladministration, the Northern Cape Premier, Mr. Zamani Soul, Dr. Zamani Soul, must take appropriate steps in respect of the disciplinary action against Mr. Lekwele for his improper conduct relating to the irregular secondment and subsequent irregular appointment of Mr. Motibi within 30 days of this report. Further, the Premier must submit a report to the Northern Cape Provincial Legislature on the action taken against the MEC within 60 days of this report. Furthermore, the current Economic Development and Tourism MEC, Mr. Foslo, must institute proceedings for the judicial review of the secondment and appointment of Mr. Motibi within 30 days from the date of this report, and submit a report on the progress made with instituting the judicial review proceedings to the Provincial Executive Council, Legislature, and Gambling Board within 60 days of this report. One must add that this office is inundated with complaints pertaining to the alleged irregular appointment of staff and the failure to follow recruitment and selection policies when filling vacancies in the public sector. We have taken note of the Public Service Commission's recent report on similar issues. We are exploring referring all future complaints in this regard to the PSC, with whom we have a memorandum of understanding which covers matters such as cross-referral complaints. Indeed, the complaints that we receive are a concern to the Public Protector of South Africa, and we urge those that are responsible for the appointment of personnel in the public service to ensure that laws of this country are followed and applied in the recruitment process. The next matter relates to report number 8, 2021-2022, Leso versus the South African Police Service. The public protector investigated allegations of maladministration and improper conduct relating to the failure by the South African Police Services in Limpopo to provide Mr. Leseja Wilfred Leso with the reasons why he has not been re-enlisted to the police service. On the 9th of January 2019, a complaint by Mr. Leso gave rise to the investigation that he, along with other former members of the SAPS, submitted applications for re-enlistment following the SAPS advertisement in June 2016, inviting erstwhile members of the police services to apply. Mr. Leso and others were allegedly informed to wait for communication from the SAPS Limpopo province on the outcomes thereof. However, the outcome allegedly never communicated to them of the application. Attempts to obtain answers from the then Minister of Police, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, resulted in the former minister referring the query to the National Police Commissioner, General Ketla Sithole, who allegedly neither responded nor acknowledged Mr. Leso's complaint. In light of this, our investigation focused on whether the SAPS in Limpopo failed to provide Mr. Leso with reasons why he had not been re-enlisted to the police service as per the application, and if so, whether such conduct by the SAPS constituted maladministration and improper conduct. The investigation revealed that indeed the SAPS in Limpopo failed to provide Mr. Leso with reasons as to why he had not been re-enlisted to the police service. To remedy this improper conduct and maladministration, the Provincial Commissioner, SAPS Limpopo Province, Lieutenant General Nekele Dwaba, must take cognizance of the findings of the maladministration and improper conduct mentioned in the report and ensure that within 30 days of receipt of this report, Mr. Leso is furnished with a letter providing him with adequate reasons why he had not been re-enlisted to the police service. Further, General Sithole must take cognizance of the findings of the maladministration and improper conduct mentioned in the report and include his oversight role over the SAPS Limpopo Province, the monitoring of implementation of the remedial action. Public Protector, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Good afternoon,
Then CEO, you can take over.
Good afternoon to all. Public Protector, I'm going to take the viewers through now the reports that relate to service delivery failures by various organs of state. The first one relates to housing. It is a matter between Mbeki versus the National Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality, which is report number 14 of 2021-22. The Public Protector investigated allegations of improper conduct, undue delay, and maladministration by the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan Municipality in connection with the allocation of RDP House number 29459 in Mission Bay, Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape. A complainant lodged by Mr. Mkhanyiseli Mbeki on the 5th of April 2019 from this investigation. It focused on whether the municipality failed to give Mr. Mbeki access to his RDP house after it was approved in terms of the relevant legal prescripts regulating the allocation, occupation, and transfer of ownership of RDP houses. And if so, whether such amounts to improper conduct, maladministration, and prejudice. The Public Protector found that the allegations are substantiated. To remedy this improper conduct and maladministration, the acting city manager must take appropriate steps to ensure that Mr. Mbeki is given lawful occupation in respect of his approved RTP house, and working in conjunction with the relevant Department of Human Settlement, the acting municipal manager must further ensure that Mr. Mbeki receives his title deed document within 90 business days from the date of issue of this report. The acting manager must also report to the municipal council on the steps to be taken to ensure that Mr. Mbeki is given lawful occupation in respect of this RCP House within 90 business days from the date of issue of this report. In addition, the acting city manager must apologize in writing to Mr. Mbeki for the delay in enabling him occupation of his approved RTP house and further inform him of the steps to be taken to ensure that he is given lawful occupation in respect of his approved RTP house within 30 business days from the date of issue of this report. It is important to also highlight the fact that the public protector has previously conducted a systemic investigation into the problems relating to the provision of houses, especially RTP houses. The intent was to address the systemic deficiencies that give rise to the prevalence of complaints such as Mr. Mbeki's, with a view to stemming the recurrence. However, we continue to receive such complaints, which means that we may have to revisit the systemic issues in this regard. The next report relates to the Department of Home Affairs, which is a matter between Mr. Gwiji versus Department of Home Affairs, report number 6 of 2021-22. The public protector investigated allegations of maladministration by the Department of Home Affairs in the registration of the births of and irregular issuing of identity numbers to the children of Ms. D. Mchengu in the surname of the late Mr. S. Gwiji. The investigation was brought about by a complaint lodged in April 2019 by Mr. V. Gwiji. In his complaint, Mr. Gwiji alleged that he discovered in 2002 that Ms. Mchengu submitted 3 birth certificates to the Mount Olive Magistrate's Office to claim from the estate of the late Ms. S. Gwiji. All the birth certificates were allegedly registered under the surname of Mr. S. Gwiji, and it was later established that the registration took place after the death of the alleged biological father, who was Mr. S. Gwiji. According to Mr. V. Gwiji, he alleged a complaint, he lodged a complaint on the matter with the Department of Home Affairs, requesting it to assist in this regard, and he was handed a document by an official of the department in 2010 only, suggesting that the department was investigating the matter internally. He has since been calling and requesting officials in the department for a report on the internal investigation that he was promised. He was allegedly informed in 2016 only that the department could not trace the report or outcome of the investigation. Based on the analysis of the complaint, the following 3 issues were identified and investigated by the public protector: whether due process was followed by the department in the registration of the births of the children of Ms. Mchengu, whether the alleged birth registrations are correctly entered on the population register by the department, and whether the department has failed to properly investigate a complaint lodged by Mr. Gwiji and to inform him about the outcome of such an investigation. The investigation revealed that due process was not followed by the department in the registration of the births of the children of Ms. Mchengu, that the birth registrations were incorrectly entered into the population register, and that the department failed to properly investigate and to conclude the investigation of the registration of the births of Ms. Mchengu's children after a complaint was received from Ms. V. Gwiji, and that he was not informed about the outcome of the investigation. The department has undertaken to correct this and ensure that the correct surname is used. According to the department, Ms. Mchengu will, in line with the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act of 2000, be informed that the surnames will be amended to her surname on the population register, and the children who are now majors can, after the amendment is effected, apply to use the Gwiji surname following the process to amend the surnames for measures, providing the required supporting documents as well as paying the prescribed fee. So it means the Home Affairs Department is going to reverse the whole process and restart it. Now the children are majors, so they can make the applications by themselves. To remedy this maladministration and improper conduct, the Director General must ensure that the alerts issued with the standard operating procedures are duly implemented and monitored, and ensure that all the SOPs are adhered to by the officials as undertaken in the department's response to the Public Protector's Section 79 notice. He must also implement the proposed remedy referred to above. The Director General must also retract any identity cards issued in terms of the Identification Act of 1997 with incorrect particulars from the 3 children and reissue them with the corrected documents as contemplated in section 19(3)(b)(2) of the Act as soon as amendments of the surnames on the population register are effected, and inform the 3 children who are now measures of any further remedy that is available to them. Lastly, the DG must issue Mr. V. Gwiji with a written apology for not responding to his complaint and supply him with the outcome of the requested investigation report on the matter, and through regular monitoring ensure that the complaints are timely attended to and that complainants are provided with written outcomes on matters raised. Then the next report then relates to whistleblowing protection, which is normally done in line with the Whistleblowing Act, where people who have identified or suspect irregularities may approach the public protector with a view to be protected against any reprisal should it be found that they actually raise the matters with the public protector. This matter involves Chauke, who complained against the Department of Economic Development in Gauteng, and it's report number 10 of 2021-22. The public protector investigated allegations of maladministration, improper conduct, or suspected improper conduct in connection with the Gauteng Office of the Premier, Premier's office in the manner in which they handle the protected disclosure lodged in terms of the Protected Disclosures Act by Mr. Chauke. This was in connection with an allegation of irregular conduct by the Provincial MEC of Economic Development, Mr. Lebogang Maile, and the former Deputy Director General of Provincial Economic Development Department, Mr. Stephen Ngobeni, on non-adherence to legislation and policies prescripts regulating supply chain management in government. The investigation was triggered by a complainant, as indicated, lodged on the 9th of May 2017 by Mr. Chauke, a former employee of the government, of the Gauteng Government Department of Economic Development. He alleged that he lost a protected disclosure with the Office of the Premier, primarily with Mr. David Makura and the Director General, Ms. Pindi Lebaleni, in terms of the Protected Disclosures Act. The public protector has the powers under the PDA to receive protected disclosures and thus serves as a safe haven for whistleblowers. In terms of the PDA, employees who make protected disclosures are protected from suffering occupational detriment as a result of their reporting of suspected improper conduct. And occupational detriment, if I can just expand on that, it refers to, amongst other things, being dismissed, suspended, demoted, harassed, or intimidated in your place of work in retaliation for having made a protected disclosure. So we looked into whether any of those happened in as far as Mr. Chauke's complaint was concerned. Mr. Chauke's disclosure related to allegations of improper or suspected improper conduct by MEC Maile and Mr. Ngobeni regarding non-adherence to legislation and policy prescripts regulating the procurement of goods and services and payment of service providers. According to Mr. Chauke, no action was taken by the Office of the Premier to investigate the allegations and to protect him from those against whom he made the disclosure. A thorough assessment of the complaint led to the confinement of the investigation to 3 issues. The first one, whether the Office of the Premier received the protected disclosure in terms of the PDA as lodged by Mr. Chauke against Mr. Maile and Mr. Ngobeni. Secondly, whether the office failed to act on Mr. Chauke's protected disclosure. And lastly, whether Mr. Chauke was subjected to occupational detriment as a result of the protected disclosure. The investigation revealed that the Office of the Premier received the protected disclosure in terms of the PDA. Mr. Chauke's complaint lodged with the Office of the Premier, lodged the complaint with the Office of the Premier on the 13th of April 2016. A complaint that constituted protected disclosure in terms of Section 9(1) of the Protected Disclosures Act, read with Clause 9 of the Whistleblowing Act of the department. The allegation that the Office of the Premier failed to act on Mr. Chauke's protected disclosure is unsubstantiated. Evidence shows that the Provincial Economic Department was engaged on the matter, and investigation firm Rakoma and Associate Incorporated was subsequently contracted to conduct a forensic investigation into the allegations. However, it was also observed that despite repeated requests for feedback and progress by Mr. Chauke, the Office of the Premier failed to provide him with a prompt response, communicating its receipt of the complaint and assuring him that the complaint was receiving their attention. The allegation that Mr. Chauke was subjected to occupational detriment as a result of protected disclosure is unsubstantiated. He was issued with written warnings in December 2015 and February 2016. Both warnings were issued prior to him lodging the protected disclosure with the Office of the Premier on the 13th of April 2016. So he was warned, he was issued with 2 warnings before he came to lodge a protected disclosure with the Office of the Premier. Accordingly, there is no link between the warnings that were issued before his report to the Office of the Premier. And therefore, the allegation that he suffered occupational detriment could not be substantiated. It has been observed that Mr. Chauke approached the General Public Service Sector Bargaining Council with regards to the written warnings issued to him without being afforded an opportunity to make a representation internally in response to the allegations of misconduct. He also approached the same bargaining council over not being consulted and afforded the opportunity to make representations relating to the decision to transfer him to the post of Chief Director, Risk Management. When the bargaining council conciliation outcome was not in his favor, Mr. Chauke opted to resign without taking the process further. However, the conduct of the department's functionaries is not affording him an internal opportunity to make representation prior to the issuing of written warnings, and the implementation of the decision to transfer him to another business unit was not in line, amongst other things, with the relevant provisions of the Labor Relations Act and the Public Service Act of 1994. To remedy the improper conduct and maladministration as uncovered by the investigation, Premier David Makura must, within 60 business days of this report, consider putting measures in place to ensure that protected disclosure complainants are not subjected to secondary persecution by those against whom they have made a disclosure, and are updated regularly on the progress of their complaints. The Director General must, within 30 business days of this report, furnish Mr. Chauke with a written acknowledgement confirming receipt of the protected disclosure and a letter of apology for not promptly responding to his request for feedback. The head of the Provincial Economic Development Department must, within 90 days of this report, ensure that the forensic investigation conducted by Rakoma and Associates Incorporated is finalized, and consider providing Mr. Chauke with the outcome of the investigation in respect of the matters he raised in the protected disclosure. The HOD must also provide training to the relevant officials of the department on the Labor Relations Act and the Public Service Act, with emphasis on the requirements to consistently afford employees the opportunity to make representations in order to be for the allegations of alleged misconduct to stand, or matters where an employee may be adversely affected. This is very critical, as failure to do so may lead to labor disputes or litigation against the department. I want to thank you at this moment, and I'll hand over back to the Public Protector to take the process forward. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. I'll hand over to the Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Galega.
Thank you, Public Protector. A very good afternoon, Program Director, Mr. Opasufale, the Public Protector, Chief Executive Officer, Chief Operations Officer, Executive Managers, Managers of Public Protector South Africa, members of the media, members of the public, ladies and gentlemen. This afternoon, I'm going to take you through, firstly, the reports on public procurement and contract management. I shall begin with the report of Sekilane versus Mwate Local Municipality, report number 48 of 2020-2021. Allegations of failure by the Mwate Local Municipality in the Free State to compensate Phambili Corporate Clothing CC for services rendered was investigated. The investigation was triggered by a complaint lodged on 16 July 2018 by Mr. Mziwabantu Mbele on behalf of Peter Selikane, a director of Phambili Corporate Clothing CC. Mr. Sigilane alleged that the municipality awarded his company a tender for the provision of protected clothing. The tender was in 3 batches, namely bid ref 0101 of 2018, bid reference number 0201 of 2018, and bid reference number 0301 of 2018. With values of 49,662 Rand and 34,099 Rand and 80 cents, as well as 79,139 Rand 28 cents, respectively. He allegedly delivered in terms of the first batch, which was received by Ms. Matlodi Mutale, an official of the municipality. Upon inquiring about the payment 4 weeks later, he was allegedly informed that the clothing items he delivered did not meet the specifications, even though the reference to 2-piece overalls generally used by blue-collar workers during a mandatory briefing session. No further specifications were referred to in the request for quotations. He further alleged that the municipality failed to issue purchase orders for bid reference number 0201 of 2018 and bid reference number 0301 of 2018. Instead, the municipality informed him that the clothing he delivered was rejected and that he should submit a revised quotation, which he did. Purchase orders were allegedly not issued for the rest of the job. The complaint was studied and upon analysis resolved to confine the investigation to whether the municipality unduly delayed to compensate Phambili Corporate Clothing CC for services rendered, and if so, whether such conduct amounted to maladministration. We also looked into whether the failure by the municipality to issue purchase orders in respect of bid reference 0201 of 2018 and bid reference 0301 of 2018 amounted to maladministration. The investigation revealed that the allegation that the municipality unduly delayed to compensate Phambili Corporate CC for services rendered and therefore amounted to maladministration was substantiated. On the other hand, the second allegation that the failure by the municipality to issue purchase orders in respect of bid reference 0201 of 2018 and bid reference 0301 of 2018 amounted to maladministration was unsubstantiated. To remedy the maladministration established in terms of the first allegation, the municipal manager, Mr. Bruce William Kannemeyer, must ensure that Mr. Sekilane is paid the full amount, which is outstanding, 49,662 rand 50 cents, with interest calculated in terms of the prescribed rate of interest Act 55 of 1977. This should be in accordance with the official appointment letter in respect of bid reference 0101 of 2018 and the delivery of goods accepted by Ms. Matlodi Motale of the municipality as per delivery note number 06/030. Mr. Kannemeyer must also apologize in writing to Mr. Sekilane. Both these pieces of remedial action must be actioned within 30 days from the date of this report. I'd like to move over to the report of Alberts versus e-government, report number 08 of 2021-2022. In this matter, allegations of maladministration relating to the irregular awarding of a 30 million rand security operations center, which shall hereafter be referred to as SOC services tender by the Gauteng Department of Finance and e-government, which shall hereafter be referred to as e-gov, to into IT technologies were investigated. This followed a 20 May 2020 complaint from Advocate Anton Alberts, in which he alleged that eGov awarded a suspicious 30 million rand express tender in 24 hours to Into IT, and that eGov used the cover of the COVID-19 pandemic to rush the contract through without following proper tender processes. Mr. Alberts further alleged that Provincial MEC for Education, Mr. Panyaza Lesufi, may have unduly influenced the award of the tender, considering that he allegedly on several occasions tried to insert into IT technologies into government services. The focus of the investigation was on 3 issues after a thorough analysis of the complaint. Firstly, whether eGov advertised and awarded the SOC tender amounting to 30 million rands to Into IT without following proper procurement processes, and whether such actions amounts to improper conduct or maladministration. Secondly, whether Mr. Lesufi unduly influenced the award of the 30 million rand tender to Into IT. And lastly, whether the State Information Technology Agency, which shall hereafter be referred to as SETA, has insufficient capacity and capability to procure SOC services on behalf of eGov. The investigation revealed that eGov advertised and awarded the SOC tender to Into IT without following proper procurement processes, and this constituted improper conduct and or maladministration. In addition, SETA has insufficient capacity and capability to procure SOC services on behalf of eGov. Evidence has revealed that SETA failed to procure SOC services on behalf of the eGov without justifiable grounds. Since eGov's first request, which was made in 2017, the former CEO of SETA conceded that SETA does not have the capacity to procure SOC services on behalf of the eGov. The executive caretaker of SETA, Mr. Luvuyo Keise, did not delegate his obligation and duties to procure SOC services to eGov, as eGov is not a subsidiary company of SETA. However, SETA was required to delegate its procurement functions to a subsidiary company as required by Section 3, capital A, subsection 2 of the SETA Act, when they were unable to procure SOC services before they could recommend exemption to Ms. Ndabeni Abrahams. The failure, inability, and delay by SETA to procure SOC services led to eGov requesting exemption from Ms. Ndabeni Abrahams. Regarding Mr. Lesufi, the allegations that he unduly influenced the award of the 30 million rand tender to IT was found to be unsubstantiated. There is no evidence indicating that Mr. Lesufi was involved in any procurement process of the SOC tender or that he disregarded provisions of the Code of Conduct of members of the Provincial Executive Council. To remedy this improper conduct and maladministration appropriately, the Provincial MEC for Finance and E-Government must ensure that Mr. Cyril Baloyi, the departmental head, conducts training in respect of all executive officials of eGov and officials involved in the supply chain management processes. This must happen within 30 working days of this report. Mr. Baloyi must institute disciplinary steps against Mr. Mutibi for advising into IT of the tender award before a letter of appointment was issued and the contract signed by eGov and into IT, and against Ms. Koyana for failing to follow supply chain management processes in that she evaluated only 2 requests of quotations on her own outside the prescribed supply chain management policy. It is noted that Mr. Rashid Sidat, the former acting head of Department of eGov, has since returned to his position in the Gauteng Premier's office, and that disciplinary steps have already been taken against him by the Premier, Mr. David Makura, and that he was also issued with a sanction of a final written warning in November 2020. Therefore, no remedial action will be taken against Mr. Sidat in this instance. It is also noted that Mr. Sanele Zondo, the former acting chief financial officer of eGov, has since returned back to his position at the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport and subsequently resigned from the department at the end of October 2020. Therefore, in this instance as well, no remedial action can be taken against him. Mr. Baloyi must also provide training to all the executive officials of eGov and SCM officials who are involved in procurement processes. All these must happen within 30 working days of this report. Mr. Keise must within 30 working days after the date of this report submit a closeout report outlining the implementation of the remedial action of the public protector. It is noted that SETA undertook to implement this remedial action by engaging Ms. Ndabeni Abrahams regarding the lack of capacity issue at SETA in the following manner. A, SETA has appointed 3 HODs in the SCM division, namely HOD Contract Management, HOD Demand Management, and HOD Center of Excellence, which will commence work at SETA on the 1st of June 2020. B, SETA has advertised 19 more positions that are being filled, and this will be completed within the next 3 to 4 months. C, SETA further commits to conduct training and create additional vacancies vacancies, as well as awareness to supply chain management staff and customer relations managers on the process for IT requirements for government departments. It is important and almost critical that SETA be fully capacitated, both structurally and operationally, so that it is able to effect efficient and effective services to the departments which it services. Lastly, on this aspect, the Premier, Mr. David Makura, must note that the Public Protector did not find any wrongdoing against Mr. Lesufi with regard to the allegation that he may have influenced the award of SOC services into IT, and as such, there is no remedial action taken against him. Lastly, I deal with the report into the public health care systems. This report focuses in the Eastern Cape province, which is report number 11 of 2021-2022. The Public Protector investigated an own initiative investigation with allegations of worsening conditions within the healthcare facilities or hospitals in the Eastern Cape. The investigation commenced on 30 July 2020. It was based on information that came to the attention of the Public Protector through media reports relating to the poor conditions at the healthcare facilities and hospitals within the Eastern Cape province. In order to obtain clarity as to what was alleged in the media, Public Protector South Africa visited certain identified healthcare facilities in the province and conducted site inspections on the 4th and the 5th of August 2020. The inspections entailed indiscriminately interviewing staff members, union representatives, and patients on site. The investigation sought to examine a number of factors, including the availability of health care, human resources, physical infrastructure, and vital equipment, machinery, PPE, and staff morale in hospitals in light of the strain added by the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. The following hospitals were visited and inspected: Uitenhage Hospital, Livingston Hospital, Mthatha Hospital, and lastly was the Sulenkama Hospital, also known as Nessinite. On the basis of analysis of the allegations and available information, it was investigated whether the administration of health by the Eastern Cape Department of Health at the Nessinite, Mthatha, Livingston, and Uitenhage hospitals accords with the obligations imposed by the Constitution and the law, and if not, whether such failure amounts to improper conduct and maladministration. The investigation revealed that the administration of health by the Eastern Cape Department of Health at Nessinite, Mthatha, Livingston, and Uitenhage hospitals does not accord with the obligations imposed by the Constitution and the law. At Nessinite, the investigation team observed systemic deficiencies such as staff shortages, lack of adequate medical equipment, insufficient supply of PPE, poor physical infrastructure such as dilapidated buildings, lack of vehicles, lack of laundry services, and poor supply of water as detailed in evidence. In respect of the Mthatha Hospital, observations made during the on-site inspection that was undertaken by the investigation team revealed acute systemic deficiencies, such as inadequate physical infrastructure, lack of a mortuary, shortage of office space, inadequate office equipment, shortage of human resources, lack of vehicles, inadequate medical equipment or machinery, and inadequate supply of other essential resources like PPE, which are also necessary to sustain an effective health facility as detailed in evidence. With regard to Livingston hospital, systemic deficiencies such as acute staff shortages, inadequate physical infrastructure, shortage of medical equipment or machinery, and insufficient supply of other resources like PPE, which are all necessary to sustain an effective health facility as detailed in evidence were observed. Regarding Utenag, it was observed that there were systemic deficiencies such as acute staff shortages, shortage of vehicles, and inadequate supply of resources like PPE, which are all necessary to sustain an effective health facility as detailed in the evidence. The same systemic deficiencies were echoed in the submissions by the hospital management and by the union representative. And in some instances, staff members that were engaged during interaction during the investigation in the case of all four facilities. The observations and findings were not disputed by the Eastern Cape Department of Health. The Eastern Cape Department of Health failed to ensure appropriate conditions for the enjoyment, delivery, and access to adequate as well as effective healthcare services for the communities of Sulenkama, Mthatha, Port Elizabeth, and Utenhage. Such failure by the Eastern Cape Department of Health amounts to contravention of the relevant sections of the Constitution, relevant sections of the National Health Act, and the regulations as shown in evidence. Accordingly, the conduct of the Eastern Cape Department of Health constitutes improper conduct as envisaged in the Constitution in maladministration in terms of the Public Protector Act. It is noted that and acknowledged that the challenges and constraints faced by the Eastern Cape Department of Health, as well as the context within which health services are delivered in the Eastern Cape, namely the serious infrastructure backlogs from the former homelands. As part of remedial action in respect of the Nessenite Hospital, the head of the Eastern Cape Department of Health must take appropriate steps to ensure that within the 2021-2022 medium-term expenditure framework, the Eastern Cape Department of Health, and where appropriate and in consultation with the provincial public works and infrastructure departments, as well as the provincial treasury, finalizes several projects in this regard, which include the construction of the new residences for the staff, fencing of the hospital grounds, installing water supply in the residences, renovation of the male, female, and TB wards, construction of the concrete driveway, renovation of the kitchen and central sterile supply department, installation of new ceilings in the wards passages as part of and in the main hospital building renovations, refurbishment of hospital equipment and installation of piped oxygen, amongst others. Regarding Mthatha, the head of the Eastern Cape Department of Health must ensure, amongst other things, that vehicles from other healthcare facilities are reassigned for the benefit of the Mthatha Hospital. Within 30 days from the date of this report, and a submission is made to the Provincial National Treasury for assistance with the timely settlement of medical legal claims relating to the hospital to avoid the further attachment of assets of the hospital within 30 days from the date of this report. At Livingston, the head of the Eastern Cape Department of Health must take appropriate steps to ensure, among other things, that the recruitment process for the vacant leadership positions at the hospital is finalized within 60 days from the date of this report. The filling of other critical positions at the hospital is prioritized. Interns appointed as from April 2021 are placed at the hospital to assist, and the organogram from the hospital is finalized within 90 days from the date of this report, and the relevant treasury engaged for additional funds to fill vacant positions. As far as UTNAG is concerned, the head of the Eastern Cape Department of Health must take appropriate steps to ensure, among other things, that the organogram of the hospital with the correct classification of posts is completed within 90 days from the date of this report. The recruitment process for the leadership positions at the hospital is completed within 60 days from the date of this report, and the filling of other critical vacant positions at the hospital is prioritized. The remedies in respect of all these facilities are not exhaustive. And just to highlight as well, the main observation is the lack of a plan to deal with mental health patients within these hospitals. The full details thereof can be found in the report. I thank you. Over to you, Public Protector.
Thank you so much, Deputy Public Protector. I will continue with the other reports relating to the complaints which was lodged by Schreiber versus, this was relating to CADA deployment, report number 38 of 2020-2021. So the Public Protector investigated the allegations of an attempt by the ANC to instruct its deployed cadres in the national government to influence appointments for the position of Director Generals, Chief Executive Officers, Chairpersons, and board members in state-owned entities. The allegations were spelled out in a 20 July 2020 complaint by Dr. Leon Schreiber, an MP of the Democratic Alliance. The complaint was referred to the Speaker of the National Assembly in terms of Section 6(4)(c), Roman figure 2 of the Public Protector Act, read with Section 92, 2 and 3, or Section 93, 2 of the Constitution, to consider referring the matter to the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests, or any appropriate committee for further consideration and action in terms of Section 56 and 69 of the Constitution. Another investigation or report which we are issuing today relates to an anonymous complaint which was lodged by concerned members of staff versus the Department of Transport, which is report 13 of 2021-2022. This is part B, which was referred to earlier by the COO, relates to the appointment of advisors for the minister. So the Public Protector investigated allegations of maladministration and improper conduct in the irregular appointment of ministerial advisors by the National Department of Transport. The investigation resulted from a complaint lodged on the 5th of August 2020 by a group calling themselves Anonymous Concerned Members of Staff. This is part B of the part report referred to earlier, stemming from the investigation of the complaint by this group, and it was relating to also the procurement of the PPEs. Hence, it was forming part of the project or our COVID investigations project. Hence, this report is finalized this quickly. They allege that the Minister of Transport, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, and the Director General of the Department, Mr. Muyemi, irregularly appointed advisors in the Ministry of Transport. The officials so appointed were alleged to be, among others, Mr. Venkile, Mr. Khoza, Mr. Mbondo, Ms. Mbondo. The specific allegations include the appointment of Mrs. Messrs. Mbondo, Venkile, and Khoza to the positions of advisor without prior confirmation of the appointments by the Department of Public Service and Administration as required in terms of the applicable regulations. With regard to Mr. Mbondo, questions were also raised about his secondment to PRASA. In the case of Ms. Mbondo, it was alleged that she was appointed immediately after the elections as a parliamentary liaison officer in the ministry at the level of deputy director, whilst she only had a matric certificate. It was also alleged that when she subsequently completed her diploma in administration in April 2020, Mr. Muyemi issued an instruction that she be elevated to the position of senior manager. A thorough analysis of the complaint led to the following or narrowing down of the investigation to the following 4 issues. Whether the appointment of Mr. Venkile, Khoza, and Mpondo were contrary to the provisions of the Public Service Act and other prescripts applicable to the National Department of Transport, whether Mr. Venkile and Khoza were irregularly paid salaries which are equivalent to that of the Deputy Director General level, even though their appointments were not approved by the Minister of Public Service and Administration, whether Mr. Mbondo's secondment to PRASA was done contrary to the provisions of the Public Service Act and other prescripts applicable to the department, and whether Ms. Mpondo was elevated to the position of senior manager contrary to the provisions of the Public Service Act and other prescripts applicable to the department. The investigation revealed that the appointment of Mr. Venkile, Khoza, and Mpondo were contrary to the provisions of the Public Service Act and other prescripts applicable to the department. It also revealed that Mr. Venkile and Khoza were irregularly paid salaries which are equivalent to that of DDG, even though their appointments were not approved by the Minister of Public Service and Administration. Mr. Venkile and Khoza were appointed at salary ranges of 1.4 million and 1.5 million to 1.7 million per annum respectively. Their offers in respect of contracts of appointment are dated 1 June 2019 and 21 March 2019, and Public Service and Administration Minister Senzo Mchunu approved them later, which is August 2019 and November 2020 respectively. Mr. Venkile has undertaken to pay back the money determined as a salary of a payment. Minister Mbalula and Mr. Muyemi undertook to recover all overpayments that have been made or effected to Mr. Khoza's salary also. The investigation further revealed that Mr. Mbondo's secondment to PRASA was done contrary to the provisions of the Public Service Act and other prescripts applicable to the department. However, contrary to the allegations, we found no irregularities in the appointment of Ms. Mpondo to the position of Director Parliamentary and Cabinet Support in the Office of the Minister. To remedy this improper conduct and maladministration, Minister Mbalula must take urgent and appropriate steps to ensure that when making future special advisor appointments, he submits proposals, recommendations for the appointment of individual special advisors to the Minister of Public Service and Administration for approval of the individual's compensation level before the appointment or upgrade is effected. He must also see to it that all future contracts of employment, performance agreements, and security clearance of special advisors are submitted to the Minister of Public Service and Administration for record purposes as required by the dispensation policy. Mr. Muyemi must take urgent and appropriate steps to ensure that all the overpayments, salaries, and emoluments that were paid to Mr. Venkile by the department before his position as special advisor to the Minister of Transport was approved by the Minister of Public Service and Administration are recovered in full as per the agreement concluded with Mr. Venkile. He must also ensure that the department recovers in full and or enters into a repayment agreement with Mr. Khoza in order to recover all outstanding overpayments that were made to him as a result of the remuneration irregularly received prior to the concurrence of his remuneration level by the Minister of Public Service and Administration. The Minister of Public Service and Administration must take urgent and appropriate steps to ensure that all ministers and deputy ministers are aware and trained in the procedures and processes to be followed in the appointment of special advisors. Management, the report, another report which we are issuing relates to management of municipal finances. This relates to Vendor Building Society Mutual Bank, report 17 of 2021-2022, the so-called VBS Bank. The Public Protector investigated on own initiative this matter, and as well, there was a complaint which was lodged by the DA in this particular instance. The investigation commenced on the grounds of information that came to the Public Protector's attention from media reports relating to the investment of public funds by several municipalities with VBS. This followed the publication of the forensic report commissioned by the Prudential Authority in connection with the alleged improprieties and unlawful conduct at VBS. It was widely reported from 2018 onwards that municipalities' investment with VBS of large amounts of public money meant for service delivery was improper, unlawful, and resulted in the misuse of public funds. Based on the analysis of the allegations and the information obtained, the allegation focused on whether municipalities in Limpopo, Northwest, and Gauteng irregularly invested public funds with VBS, and if so, whether the conduct of the municipalities was improper and constituted maladministration. The municipalities in question were Makhado Local Municipality, Vembe District Municipality, Collins Chabane Local Municipality, Elias Mutwaledi Local Municipality, Greater Giyani Local Municipality, Ephraim Mukhale Local Municipality, Dubatse Fitakhomu Local Municipality, and Lipele Nkimpi Local Municipality, all in Limpopo. There were also Madibeng Local Municipality, Mahikeng Local Municipality, Moretele Local Municipality, and Dr. Ruth Sukhumutsi Mumpati District Municipality in the Northwest, as well as Mirafung City Local Municipality and West Rand District Municipality in Gauteng. The investigation confirmed that the implicated municipalities did in fact irregularly invest public funds with VBS. Details of each investment and losses of public funds as a result of the irregular investments per municipality are as follows. Makhado Local Municipality irregularly invested 155 million from 2016 to 2017 with VBS. The investment resulted in the loss of more than 60 million of public funds. Vembe District Municipality regularly invested 1 billion and 70 million from 2015 to 2017 with VBS, and this resulted in the loss of 300 million. Collins Chabane Local Municipality regularly invested 120 million on 23 October 2017 with VBS. The investment resulted in the loss of more than 120 million of public funds. Elias Mutwaledi irregularly invested 190 million during 2016-17 and 2017-18 financial years, respectively, with VBS. Greater Giyani Local Municipality, 153 million, 254,435 with VBS September and October 2017, respectively. The investment resulted in the loss of 153,254,000. Ephraim Mukhale Local Municipality invested 80 million from 2016 to 2017, and that resulted in a loss of more than 80 million. Fitakhomu Dubatse Local Municipality irregularly invested 230 million, 2016 to 2018. The investment resulted in the loss of 230 million. Lipele Nkumpi Local Municipality regularly invested 100 million for a period of 12 months and 50 million for a period of 3 months with VBS. In total, the loss of public funds is 150 million. Madibeng Local Municipality regularly invested 60 million. In 2017, 30 million was paid back by VBS and the loss was 30 million. Mahikeng Local Municipality invested 89 million with VBS, and that resulted in a loss of 82 million. Moretele Local Municipality regularly invested 258 million with VBS from July 2017 to January 2018. The investment resulted in a loss of 50 million. Dr. Ruth Sukhumutsi Mumpati regularly invested 210 million from 2017 to 2018, and the investment resulted in the loss of more than 150 million of public funds. Mirafung City Local Municipality irregularly invested 50 million in 2017. The investment resulted in the loss of 51 million public funds. So the West Rand, they invested 389 million, 114,000. The investment resulted in a loss of 227 million, 114,000 of public funds. These investments were made in violation of the provisions of Section 13(1) of subsection 1 of the Municipal Finance Management Act, the Municipal Investment Regulations, and the policies regulating investments by the municipalities. The funds lost could have been used to improve service delivery to the municipalities. The conduct of the municipalities concerned was accordingly improper as envisaged in the Constitution and constituted maladministration in terms of the Public Protector Act. To remedy this improper conduct and maladministration, the municipal managers of the municipalities referred to in this report must ensure that the relevant officials responsible for and dealing with investments by the municipalities attend a workshop and training sessions on the relevant provisions of the MFMA, the regulations and the policy of the municipality that regulates investments within 90 days from date of this report. Report to the council on a quarterly basis on the status of investments made or to be made by the municipality. Ensure that internal audit unit of the municipality conducts regular compliance audits on the investment accounts of the municipality and report accordingly, and report to the council on the implementation of the remedial actions referred to above within 120 days from the date of this report, and submit a copy of the report to the Public Protector. The speakers of the various municipalities must ensure that quarterly reports are submitted to the provincial members of the Executive Committee, MEC, which is MECs, responsible for local government, and the provincial treasuries of the respective provincial governments on the implementation of the remedial action taken. Take the appropriate steps to ensure that the audit committees of the respective municipalities are properly constituted as contemplated by Section 166 of the MFMA, with members that are competent and that have the necessary skills, qualifications, and experience, and take the appropriate steps to ensure that any outstanding recommendations made by the forensic investigation reports on the investments by the implicated municipalities with VABS referred to in the respective reports on the municipalities, including disciplinary action against officials and councillors, are considered by the council for implementation within 90 days of the date of this report. Lastly, the Limpopo, Northwest, and Gauteng MECs responsible for local government must submit regular reports to the Director General of the National Treasury with their comments where appropriate on the implementation of the remedial action above. As I conclude, I wish to invoke the following salient points coming out of the seminal Constitutional Court judgment in the case of EFF versus the Speaker of the National Assembly. Since as the Public Protector, when we take remedial actions, we rely on these paragraphs of that Constitutional Court judgment, since it's a precedent which gives or shows what powers the Public Protector has in issuing remedial actions. That complaints are lodged with the Public Protector to cure incidents of impropriety, prejudice, unlawful enrichment, or corruption in government cycles. An appropriate remedy must mean an effective remedy, for without effective remedies, the values underlying and the rights entrenched in the Constitution cannot properly be upheld or enhanced. Taking appropriate remedial action is much more significant than making a mere endeavor to address complaints, which was the most of the Public Protector could do in terms of the interim constitution. However sensitive, embarrassing, and far-reaching the implications of our reports and findings, we are constitutionally empowered to take action that has that effect if it is the best attempt at curing the root cause of the complaint. The legal effect of these remedial measures must simply be that those to whom they are directed are to consider them properly, with due regard to their nature, context, and language, to determine what course to follow. Every complaint requires a practical or effective remedy that is in sync with its own peculiarities and merits. It is the nature of the issue under investigation, the findings made, the particular kind of remedial action taken based on the demands of the time that will determine the legal effect it has on the person, body, or institution it is addressed to. The public protector's powers to take appropriate remedial action is wide, but certainly not unfettered. What remedial action is to take in a particular case will be informed by the subject matter of the investigation and the type of findings made. Implicit in the words "take action" is that the public protector is empowered to decide on and determine the appropriate remedial measures. And action presupposes, obviously, where appropriate, concrete or meaningful steps. Nothing in these words suggests that the public protector necessarily has to leave the exercise of the powers to take remedial action to other institutions, or that it is power that is by its nature of no consequence. So the public protector has the power to determine the appropriate remedy and prescribe the nature of its implementation. Appropriate means nothing less than effective, suitable, proper, or fitting to redress or undo the prejudice, impropriety, unlawful enrichment, or corruption in a particular case. The remedial action taken by the public protector has a binding effect. When remedial action is binding, compliance is not optional. Whatever reservations the affected party might have about its fairness, appropriateness, or lawfulness, for this reason, the remedial action taken against those under investigation cannot be ignored without any legal consequences. Hence, we advise those who are not happy with the remedial actions to take us on review, and unless the interdict implementation of the remedy. And I must also indicate that the only focus of the public protector's investigation is to check whether any matter which we are investigating, what are the facts, and what are the prescripts which have been violated. That's all what we check, and we base that on the evidence which is before the public protector. We don't thumbsuck on what is reported, but we check what the evidence which we have says about the matter we are investigating. Thank you, Program Director, and thank you to everyone for listening, and the members of the media, the members of the public. This is our reports.
Thank you, Public Protector. Thank you to the Deputy Public Protector as well. Same for the CEO as well as the Chief Operations Officer. We are live on YouTube. I see there are about 35 people who are following these proceedings on YouTube, some of whom are journalists. And we have invited them to send through their questions on the basis of the reports that were released. And the statement has also been shared with them on various platforms. However, thus far, it does not look like we have any questions coming through that channel, PP. And I have been inviting the colleagues to prepare their questions and send them through. I take it that this is an indication that they understand the content very well, and they did not ask questions at this point in time, although we have received quite a few invites to engage on this very content. So I suppose as things stand, this calls for us to adjourn. But maybe before that, PP, I see there is a question coming through from ENCA. Mr. Barry Bateman. The last time we had a media briefing like this, I was hammered over the knuckles by some of the journalists for not reading their questions verbatim. They wanted us to read, to not summarize, but to read word for word. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in respect of this one from Mr. Barry Bateman of ENCA. It doesn't seem like it is related to the press conference, but let me just read it out for the public protector. He writes, what is the public protector's comment on the judgment and penalty imposed by the Constitutional Court on former President Jacob Zuma, considering that it relates to a person undermining a commission established as part of the Office of the Public Protector's remedial action? I will repeat that question. Mr. Bateman from ENCA asks, what is the public protector's comment on the judgment and penalty imposed by the Constitutional Court on former President Zuma, considering it relates to a person undermining a commission established as part of the Office of the Public Protector's remedial action? I suppose he refers to the state of capture report, which was released in 2016. Thank you, PP.
Thank you, Program Director. Our main purpose today was to issue these reports, and indeed that commission was established in terms of the Public Protector report, and it's so unfortunate that the commission has not yet issued the report. Possibly is one element which we will have to follow up and make sure that we check whether there's compliance to our remedial action. But I must say I'm still studying the judgment, and I've seen the minority judgment, which I think I follow, because everyone has the right to be heard, and everyone has the right to be protected in terms of the Constitution. And I think I'm more aligned to the minority judgment in this particular matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Public Protector. I don't see any more questions coming from this channel. And in the light of that, I will propose that we adjourn the press conference. Safe to say that any other questions that come after adjournment will be addressed offline. Thank you very much to the Public Protector, the Deputy Public Protector, the CEO, the COO, as well as members of the media and the public who have been following these proceedings on YouTube.
Thank you.